I think I speak for a lot of guests when I say that Lightning Lane, I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan of Lightning Lane and what it's done to standby. It's obviously a very useful tool, especially for those guests who only come once a year to Disneyland. In that case, I highly recommend it because it's obviously very effective, very useful. It saves lots and lots of time. And at 25, 30 bucks a pop per person per day, that's actually a pretty good value, at least when you compare it to other theme parks, Knott's Berry Farm, Universal Studios. We're all waiting for that, or been hoping for that to go away as an everyday standby guest. We keep waiting for Disney to come to their senses and get rid of the system, but I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, I feel like there might be something worse than Lightning Lane. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's worse than Lightning Lane, and something could be on the horizons that is. We're also going to talk about how the parks have been performing over the past year or two, post-COVID, et cetera. We're still in that post-COVID era, by the way. There's an organization called AECOM, and they measure. This is actually the only chance we ever get to see actual attendance figures for Disneyland and other theme parks around the world. Very interesting data coming out of the AECOM report for 2023. Some very interesting observations to make from that data. I can't wait to talk about that. And then finally, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about the new menu coming to Hungry Bear BBQ. The Hungry Bear BBQ Jamboree. About a week ago, Disney revealed the menu for that, and I want to finally take this opportunity to talk about it because, I mean, it looks good. It looks good. But let's start with what's worse than Lightning Lane. This, by the way, is all conjecture. It's all theory, and we're just basically guessing at this point because nothing is actually official. But there are people out there who pay very close attention to the Disneyland app. People who are able to, let's say, see when a reservation slot is becoming available or a dining reservation slot is becoming available. There's websites out there that manage that. A website that I am particularly fond of is called Theme Park IQ. That's where I go to get my permit information. That's where I go to, if I ever need to scoop a reservation date, the specific one that I want, I go to that site. They tell you. One of the things that he discovered is that an animation popped up in the Disneyland app. It was there for a minute, and then they removed it immediately. But it was time enough for him to download it. And it's pretty interesting. It's something called Lightning Lane Premier Pass, and it's just a little 2-second GIF. But it's got everybody curious. What could this be? This is on the Disneyland app, by the way. This is not Walt Disney World. This is completely separate from Disney World. This is on the Disneyland app, which is a separate app from Walt Disney World. There's 2 downloads. That name, Lightning Lane Premier Pass, does not exist at Walt Disney World. Just like FastPass Plus at Walt Disney World did not exist here. We had FastPass, but we didn't have FastPass Plus. They had FastPass Plus. That's why it was kind of strange when Genie Plus first became a thing. It was existing in both parks. First time that they had ever shared the same system. Now that's since they changed the name from Genie Plus to Lightning Lane MultiPass, the functionality of the services have again splintered. You get a separate service now at Walt Disney World than you do at Disneyland. At Walt Disney World, you can pre-book with your Lightning Lane MultiPass. You can pre-purchase Lightning Lane MultiPass, and then book your fast passes in advance, which is exceptionally valuable for people planning their vacations. That's not available here at Disneyland. You cannot pre-book your Lightning Lanes, and that's exactly what people think. Some people, I should say, that's one of the possibilities for this Lightning Lane Premier Pass. Which, by the way, let me reiterate. Nothing has been spoken of. Nothing has been confirmed by Disney. They haven't announced anything or even teased it. It's just this one little animation that has got everybody very curious and starting to, theorize what it could be. So that's one of the options, is that this Premier Pass would be the ability to pre-purchase your Lightning Lane MultiPass and to pre-book a certain amount of reservations, Lightning Lane reservations before your visit at an additional cost. That's why they're using the word premier. So you could still buy regular Lightning Lane multipass in the park on the day of your visit and still book your reservations the same way on the day of your visit. But for an additional fee, they're already charging 25 or 30 bucks for an additional fee, maybe like, up to 45, perhaps 50, I don't know, but something like that. You could buy it in advance and pre-book. This would be, as a operational decision, as a financial decision for the Disney company, very profitable, a very good idea for the Disney company. Now, I'm not saying that I like it, but I can understand why they would, because it solves quite a few problems that exist. You lose opportunities for sales today that you would capture with this pass, and at an additional price point. First, it creates a sense of urgency. When you give people an opportunity to pre-book those reservations, it creates it ignites the imagination for that guest to say, oh, gosh, I can get ahead of everything. Here it is. It's possible for me to do this now. I don't have to worry about it when I get there. It's all done. I can get ahead of all the crowds. I can even pick my times, probably. I would imagine that would be something, because you could do that at Walt Disney World. You can actually say, I want my Lightning Lane for the Matterhorn to hit at 1 p.m., which you can't do today in the park. It's all you can get is the next available slot. So that's a very useful tool, and it creates a little bit more urgency, a little bit more desire in the guest to get ahead of the rest of the crowd. Disney's all about that. They're all about creating urgency, and that's the same with the reservation system, which we can get into in another part of this conversation, perhaps. But the reservation system is as much about creating urgency and scarcity as it is about planning. From Disney's perspective, and yours as well. So it creates a lot of urgency. It heightens demand for the product. But secondly, it avoids the possibility of not selling that product at all. When you require that guests buy it and use it on the day of their visit, there are times when you can buy it in advance. I think, does Disney have that? I don't. I know one park didn't. I'm pretty sure it was Disney where you couldn't buy it in advance, or you could buy it in advance, but you couldn't book anything. They would sell it. They would ask you, do you want to add parking and do you want to add Genie Plus to your ticket? It was completely useless to add it at the time of purchase before, or today still, because you couldn't do anything with it anyway. So why bother? Why add it? They're not going to sell out. I think they've sold out once ever here at Disneyland. I think I remember one day where they said we're not going to sell any more Genie Plus. So there's no chance they're going to sell out. So you might as well just wait until you get to the park to see if you need it, to see if you need to buy that product, to see if you need Genie Plus or Lightning Lane Multipass. And there would be certainly occasions where you get to the park and you're like, no, this is great. I don't mind this one bit. This is fine. I don't think I want to spend $25 per person or $100 for the whole family to get this Lightning Lane. I don't think I want to. And it's often the reason why when you look at return times, when you're on, I do this all the time. I'm checking the tip board to see what the return times are. You'll hear me talk about, it's now. Return time is now, as opposed to, the return time is in 3 hours from now. If the return time is now, it's because people aren't using it. They've purchased Genie Plus, they've purchased individual Lightning Lane, but they're not using it for that particular attraction. Autopia, Buzz Lightyear. These are common now attractions. Whereas, if it's for 3 or 4 hours from now, the Matterhorn or Runaway Railway or Roger Rabbit, that's because there's a lot of people, they're stacking, there's demand for that attraction. People are waiting, Indiana Jones, etc. There are often days where you'll only see 2 or 3 attractions beyond a couple hours, beyond even an hour. And it makes you wonder if those guests are getting all the value that they want out of that product. And did they wish that they didn't buy it? Or maybe they just choose not to. It's easy to see. It's easy to see when you get to the park whether or not you really do need Lightning Lane. Give them the opportunity to buy it in advance and a reason to buy it in advance. And that's the key thing. You need a reason to buy it in advance in order to remove that possibility that they don't buy it at all. If they buy it in advance There's no refunds. There's no taking it back. You can't go to the park and like, oh, dang, I wish I didn't buy it. Now can I get a refund on this? I don't need it after all. No, you can't. All sales are final. So in order to incentivize guests to purchase it in advance, in order to create that demand, they have to give you a reason to buy it in advance. And that reason is being able to pre-book your lightning lanes to get ahead of the crowd. So this is about defeating that one friction point that where they're not selling as many Genie Plus or Lightning Lane passes as they would like to. That's one reason. And it's probably the best reason. It's probably the one that makes the most sense for Disney, and it's also the one that scares me the most. It scares me the most. This won't be good for guests because all you have to do is look at what happens at Disney World, where the Lightning Lane queues are full all day. You give people the opportunity and the demand to make that reservation, they're going to take it, and that means that you're going to have. It's more likely that those Lightning Lane queues are going to be full. For the more. This is the sick part of Genie Plus, the sick part of individual or Lightning Lane multipass. The more they sell, the worse it actually is for standby. The more popular Lightning Lane gets, the worse it gets for standby. To the point where it's almost like, I don't know. I've seen examples where we just at Rise of the Resistance on one of our State of Disneyland reports, we saw this huge long queue for Lightning Lane going all the way down the path towards the marketplace. You think, gosh, that's not good. That's not good for Lightning Lane, and maybe standby is going to win. That phrase we say, if everybody's special, then nobody will be. Oh no, that queue is still very, very special. In fact, it's even more special. The longer those queues get, the longer that the Lightning Lane queues get, the more focus Disney's going to put on those guests to make sure they get through their attitude, because they don't want them to be dissatisfied. They don't want to feel like they're not getting their money's worth. That standby queue is going to actually just stop and wait for all those guests, all of them, okay? All of them. They're going to process all of those guests while the standby queue has to sit and wait. So it's not a situation where the Lightning Lane becomes the new standby. No matter how bad Lightning Lane gets, standby will always be inversely worse off. That scares me. The ability to book those things in advance does scare me a little bit, and I'm hoping that that's actually not the case. I'm hoping for a second possibility for this Premier Pass. I'm hoping it's something that is closer to what they do at Universal Studios. Universal Studios, we just did a report from there as well. Universal Studios sells they have Express Lane also, but they sell it for like $125. Not $25 or $30, but $125. And because of that, there's far fewer sold. They're probably making the same amount of money in the end. Their gross sales are probably similar. They just need to sell. If they could sell just one of those Express Lane tickets for $125 for every 5 that they would have sold at 25, then it's a break even. But now you have 4 fewer guests in the queue than you would have if you'd sold 5 of them. You have 4 fewer guests in the Express Lane queue. So you walk through the park, standby it's not too bad. Standby is pretty brisk because there's not a lot of influence from Lightning Lane, from Express Lane. So I'm hoping that this Premier Pass is one where it's unlimited use, and there's no return times. You sell that for $100 instead of $25 or $125, just like Universal does with Express Lane. That's something that I could get behind. I would wonder, though, if they would be willing to sell 2 different products. Because, again, if you're going to sell it for $125, you have to give them something for that $125, right? You have to give them something. Is that enough? Is unlimited use and no return times enough to get you to spend $125 instead of $25? I mean, people already complain about $25. I don't know. I'm hoping that's the one, though, because that one has significantly less impact on standby than just pre-selling and pre-booking Lightning Lane. for the same price. Well, actually, no, I was saying like $40, $45. Is that even enough? Is that even enough for you to upgrade? I don't know. Well, it's all conjecture at this point. It's all speculation because this entire conversation that I've been talking now for 21 minutes has been based entirely on a 2-second animation that was accidentally downloaded off the Disneyland app. But it does tell me that if they're talking about this, then Lightning Lane is here to stay. It's here. It's permanently a part of our. I saw some numbers. Oh my God! I wish I had this handy. I wish, because I just thought of this now. I saw some numbers on how well Lightning Lane is selling for Disney. How well, the kind of revenue it's generating, and I don't see them ever getting rid of it. It's probably still not as much as they were hoping. It's still not as much as they would like to earn off of this, but it's significant enough that they can't go without it. No chance, in my opinion. There's no chance that Disney gets out of this business, out of this Genie Plus, Lightning Lane multipass business. Probably very little chance they're going to get out of the reservation system business as well. But I would like, hey, how about this, guys? How about Magic Key Premier? Okay, we have the Inspire Key. Can we get the Magic Key Premier Pass? I would spend a little extra for that. I would spend a little extra for unlimited reservations, no reservations. I would spend a little bit of that. I would spend extra. Speaking of things that I would spend extra for. All right, let's get into our next conversation. AECOM, AECOM. They are an agency that reports on, among other things, theme park attendance. And they release a report every year showing how all the parks around the world, locally and abroad, overseas, how those attendance figures for all parks, and then they rank them. They do it once a year. And really, it's our only chance to see how parks are doing attendance-wise. Because Disney doesn't publish attendance figures. We don't get daily figures, monthly figures, or anything like that. The only thing that I've ever seen is the AECOM data. And by the way, this is not revenue. This is just attendance. How many people went through the turnstiles? And some very interesting things appeared in the 2023 data. This is just for 2023, not 2024. It takes that long for them to generate the data and create the report and all that. Just 5 parks I'm going to show you just the top. It's top 10, but it's actually top 11 because there was a tie for 10. 5 parks showed an increase in attendance from 2022 to 2023, which is interesting because, off the top, in 2022, I feel like we were still under that. Are people ready to go back to the parks? Because attendance was very slow post-COVID. Very slow. It took a while for people to kind of get going again. There was restrictions on attendance still at that point. They weren't at full capacity. They weren't fully operational for all of 2022. So there should have been an opportunity for 2023 to show some gains just by being open or being more available to guests than they were in 2022. But just 5 parks did beat their 2022 figures. Disneyland, Magic Kingdom, California Adventure, Universal Studios Hollywood, and Epcot, which means all the other big parks that I didn't mention had decreases in attendance. Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World, down 5.5%. Animal Kingdom at Walt Disney World, down 2.85%. Universal Studios Florida, down 9.3%, as was Islands of Adventure, down 9.3%. Now, I misspoke before. I was talking about the top 10. I'm just talking about domestic parks only. I'm not including parks overseas. Those top 9 actually are the top 9 parks here in the United States. So let's observe Disneyland first of all. We have they're increasing. There was an increase from 2022, up 3.4%. We're now at 17. Those numbers are in the thousands, so that's 17,250,000. Same for Magic Kingdom. Now, but look at in 2019, Magic Kingdom did almost 21 million guests through the gates. They're still down at 17 million. They barely showed an increase, maybe 500,000 between 22 and 23. They're kind of stuck. Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World is kind of stuck. Disneyland is showing they're actually kind of getting closer to their 2019 figures. The only Disney park to actually be at its pre-COVID levels, 2019, is DCA. DCA was 9.8 million in 2019. We're now at 10 million. That's interesting. The only Disney park to have a gain since 2019. In fact, it even had the third best year-over-year increase at 11.11%. Third best amongst all of these parks here in the United States. Why is that? Because DCA is not any different. It's not any different today than it was in 2019. There's nothing new. I'm trying really hard to think, and it's just basically the same park it's always been. Why is DCA showing an 11% increase year over year? And I think the only possible explanation is the reservation system. And by the way, you can feel it in the parks. I have talked about this. I have said it in videos before. DCA is getting busy. DCA is busy. Not necessarily, it's not the same. It's not outperforming Disneyland. Disneyland is still busier, obviously, by almost double. There's still twice as many guests at Disneyland as there are at DCA. What I'm feeling is, comparatively speaking, and this is exactly what I've said in previous videos when I'm out there in the parks, you could feel that DCA is busier than it was a year ago compared to itself. Itself is getting busier, whereas Disneyland is not. Disneyland is actually kind of just sort of stagnant, maybe reaching, or it had a slight increase over year, but it's still less than it was in 2019. Something that I've been saying over and over again. People want to talk about how busy Disneyland is. It's too busy, this and that. And I've been saying since, man, you guys don't remember. You don't remember what it was like at Disneyland. You don't remember what it was like at Magic Kingdom, which, they talk about how busy Magic Kingdom is at Disney World. 21 million guests per year in 2019, 17. That's 4 million less. And you can feel that in the parks. You can feel it. So it's the reservation system, in my opinion. Disney has been very successful. We'll use the comparison to Magic Key holders. Disney has been very successful at moving their Magic Key holders from going on the weekends to going on the weekdays. There's data to prove that the weekends, Fridays and Sundays, are now the slowest days of the year, and the busiest days of the years of the week, I should say, are Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays and Tuesdays are the busiest days of the week, and has been this way for going on 2 years now. Disney's done a very good job at pushing guests to where they want them to be. They want the park to be more open on the weekends for those guests who are coming in from out of town, etc. They have been doing, apparently, the same thing, pushing guests to DCA. We often see when we look at the calendar, we can get a reservation today, but it's a DCA start. Well, just going through the turnstiles at DCA gets you a tick, gets you a number on this chart, on this data set. So just getting people through the gates at DCA has definitely increased because they're forcing people to start there. They'll park hop at 11 a.m. probably. Or it could even be the case where you make a reservation at DCA and then you don't even go to DCA. You see a DCA start, you go, okay, well, I'll just show up at noon and walk straight through the turnstile at Disneyland. I'm not sure if that skews the data a little bit, but it does explain why DCA is showing an 11% increase year over year while not being any way better than it was 2 years before. In no way. Take a look at Epcot. There's another one that I can't get my head around this. Epcot is showing that's the biggest year over year increase, almost a 20% increase over 2022. 12 million guests. And it's actually approaching its pre-COVID numbers as well. But Epcot, if anything, is worse, right? They just opened, that big area that was behind walls, that just opened the end of 23. So you can't even count that as a reason why, the sudden increase in 2023 attendance. I don't understand that. you can make that argument. You look at Universal Studios Hollywood. They're actually the only ones who have shown an increase. They're showing record-setting numbers for Hollywood. 9.6 million in 23 versus 9.1 in 2019. It's busier today at Universal Studios Hollywood than it was pre-COVID, which is a minor miracle. But that's actually very easily attributed to Super Nintendo World. I'd be curious to know what those 24 numbers look like, because the last few times we've been to Universal Studios Hollywood and Super Nintendo World, it has not been as busy as it was for almost all of 23. So I would expect, I'm not expecting another 15% increase for sure. It may not even be an increase at all, but we'll see. It's going to take a while for us to see those numbers again. But explain to me Epcot. I don't get Epcot. It's because they haven't added, no, Cosmic Rewind. When did they add Cosmic Rewind? That could be an indicator. That could be one of the reasons why that was pulling guests in 23. Is that enough, though, to show a 20% increase? When did Cosmic Rewind even open? I'm going to check the cloud while we're live here. When did Cosmic Rewind open? Oh, it opened 22. Okay. So yeah, you get the whole year. You get all of 2023 to show that increase. Here's something that's really interesting while we're talking about increases and decreases at Walt Disney World. Animal Kingdom. Look at that in 2019. Animal Kingdom. I would never, if you would ask me to guess to rank them, what is the most popular park at Walt Disney World? I would have gone Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom. I would have put them in those four, ranking in that order. That's actually how it is today. That is how it is today if I look at it. Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood, and then Animal Kingdom. Yeah, but back in 2019, Animal Kingdom, almost 14 million guests per year. The number 2 park at Walt Disney World. And then in 22, COVID, a decrease of more than 4 million guests. And another decrease. They went down again in 23. What's going on at Animal Kingdom? Is this because they're reduced? I think they've reduced their hours, right? They don't do it. They don't run the park. They don't have the park open at night anymore. Basically, did the failure of the kite show? That was last year, though, I think. But did the failure of the kite show affect things? Why are so fewer people going to Animal Kingdom? You can see there's a decrease also, though, for Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios has gone from 11.4 to 10.9, down again to 10.3 million. A reduction of 5.5%, actually a larger reduction than Animal Kingdom. Meanwhile, they've added Toy Story and Galaxy's Edge. Well, Galaxy's Edge was a while ago. That was back in 2019, right? Yeah, that was pre-COVID. While we're on that topic, Universal Studios Florida, and Islands of Adventure, they're 2 sister parks, same, right next to each other. Both were down 9.3% over their 2022 numbers. Looking at Universal Studios Florida, they were at 10.9 million in 2019. They went down in 22 to 10.7. Interesting. Down again by another million guests in 23. Islands of Adventure, 10.3, and then up to 11. It becomes the park at Universal by a lot, up 6.6%, but then down again in 23, down to 10 million. What is that about? All four of the parks showing a decrease in 2023 attendance. All 4 are Florida parks. 2 at Universal Studios and 2 at Walt Disney World. By the way, I should mention, both Knott's and Six Flags, which don't even crack this list, basically attendance-wise, did show year-over-year gains from 2022 to 23. In fact, Knott's is at its pre-COVID levels. Knott's attendance is the same or better than it was in 2019. So what is happening in Florida? Two of the parks are up. Magic Kingdom is up. Epcot is up. So we can't necessarily pin it directly on Florida, but there are events happening in Florida that could maybe dissuade guests from wanting to go there. Some guests. Is it Epic Universe in Universal's case? Because their decreases. By the way, people will be like, "Oh my God, Florida or Universal Studios is really kicking ass." I mean, are they though? If they're down 10% almost. People want to talk about the market share that Epic Universe is going to be taking from Disney, but they're also cannibalizing themselves a little bit. I mean, the argument could be made that people are just waiting for Epic Universe to open before they make their next Universal trip. And that's why you're seeing the decrease in 2023. But again, these are just 2023 numbers. I could see that argument being much more viable for 2024. This year. I could see a lot of people skipping Universal this year, 24, but 2023 that's already almost a year ago. So are people going to wait 2 years to go to Epic? Are they going to skip 2 years of visits to Universal for Epic Universe? Because we're looking at early 25 now for Epic. So I think both are true. I think that there's a Florida factor and then there's an Epic Universal factor or Epic Universe factor for the Florida parks. All in all, I think my main takeaway from this though is that Disneyland is, as I've often said, perhaps the most reliable guest out of any park, period, in the United States at least. Not just any Disney park, but any park in general. We are durable, flexible. We can ride out. You can just see, you look at the decreases from 2019 to 2022. We had a 10% decrease, which is expected because of COVID. But other parks are doing 18% decreases, 20% decreases. Animal Kingdom was 35%. That's a big takeaway. Disneyland is very durable, very reliable. We are a sturdy lot. The other thing to note is that Universal Studios Hollywood is showing the biggest increase, biggest rebound out of all the parks. Well, actually, I take that back. No, Epcot. No, I take that back again because Epcot is still down from its 19 figures. Universal Studios Hollywood is one of only two parks to show an increase since 2019. In DCA, we've already explained that's due to the reservation system. So Universal Studios Hollywood is the big winner in the last few years. And that, again, you can notice it in the park. Anyway, good for you, Disneyland. Way to go. All right, last, we're going to close with a quick conversation about the Hungry Bear BBQ. You may or may not have heard. The Hungry Bear is being rethemed from the Hungry Bear. Well, still the Hungry Bear, but now it's going to be the Hungry Bear BBQ Jamboree. They're going to incorporate some of the Country Bear Jamboree theming, the characters and the food, and to some extent. They're going to rename it the Hungry Bear BBQ Jamboree. We're getting barbecue, quick service barbecue, which is something that we haven't had ever. Have we ever had quick service barbecue? We had the old barbecue joint at the, God, I can't remember the name of it now. But that was table service. Same thing at Riverbell. You can get barbecue at Riverbell, but that's table service. Have we ever had barbecue, quick service barbecue? I don't think we have. So I'm very excited about this. And just these images alone make me very curious. There's going to be, right off the top, a smoked barbecue combo platter. And that's a selection of house smoked meats served with baked beans, When's the last time you had baked beans at Disneyland? House slaw, white bread. Just gonna give you some white bread. That's awesome. Pickles, and a choice of 2 proteins: the pork spare ribs, pulled pork, sausage link, or beef brisket. It's literally like going to whatchamacallit. I can't even think of the name now. What's the name of that barbecue? Lucille's. It's like going to Lucille's. That sounds great. I cannot wait. I'm going to eat the hell out of that. Or you can get a barbecued pulled pork sandwich. That's, let's see, a tangy barbecue sauce, house slaw, bread and butter, and served with beer battered fries. So that's a different kind of fry. I like that. Disneyland fries suck. I don't mind saying that. Disneyland fries are some of the worst fries you can get anywhere. Occasionally you get one that's a little differently prepared than you would elsewhere in the park. So being able to get this kind of fry, beer battered fries, I like those, like the wedge cut style. I like that. You can get a smoked beef brisket sandwich with tangy barbecue sauce, pickled red onions, and pickled jalapenos served with beer battered fries. My goodness. Or a smoked Angus beef burger and pulled pork, both, with American cheese, golden aioli, pickled red onions, bread and butter pickles, and crispy onions served with beer battered fries. Guys, by the way, this is not a seasonal menu. This is the permanent, everyday menu that you're going to get at Hungry Bear. And that's amazing. That's fantastic. I've long said that probably the best dining experience that you can have, is the Hungry Bear. But that's almost based entirely on the view you get of the rivers of America, the Mark Twain Columbia canoes, and all that stuff. Being up there on that top deck, watching, the river happen. Amazing, spectacular Disneyland experience. But the food has always been kind of it's hit and miss. Sometimes it's good. The chicken sandwich is popular, but it's just kind of meh. This is going to help turn it into not just a dining experience, but good food as well. There's more. Oh my God, there's more. Corn ribs plate. What's a corn rib? Chili lime aioli, Parmesan, crispy onions, cilantro, and scallions with house slaw and beer battered fries. Oh, this is a this is the plant-based menu. Look at that. I don't even know how to explain what I'm looking at there. Loaded fries topped with smoked pulled pork, queso sauce. I love queso sauce. Pickled red onions and pickled jalapenos, cilantro, and scallions. Is that a meal? Are loaded fries a meal, or do you get that with? Because that's a lot of food. You get that with a burger or something? I'm sure they're going to let you upgrade from regular fries to loaded fries. But do you just order that by itself? I don't know. A classic cheeseburger served with beer battered fries. Oh, so they're not. Oh, that's good. I thought they might try to give you a a plant-based burger at this place, and I'm thinking, God, that seems kind of the opposite of what you should be doing at the Hungry Bear BBQ Jamboree. So good, classic cheeseburger. So you still can get that served with beer battered fries, and it looks like that's like a Thousand Island dressing on there, by the way, not ketchup and mustard, which is thumbs up for me. I love Thousand Island. And then a chicken tenders plate served with house slaw and beer battered fries. That's just for those who don't want to get too interesting. They want to give you some comfort food style foods there. So a classic cheeseburger and chicken tenders. Good for the whole family. You can get baked beans on the side. You can get the whole the slaw on the side. Looks like, oh, it's a kid's meal. They've got a ribs kids meal. Pork spare ribs or a cheese sandwich, toasted cheese sandwich, or a hamburger or chicken tenders. Desserts, banana pudding. Bananas, whipped cream, crushed wafer cookies, dulce de leche, and toffee. Ooh, funnel cake fries. I hope those are crunchy. I don't like mushy funnel cake. I hope those are crunchy. And then a couple of beverages, sparkling strawberry pickle lemonade. I still have not had pickle lemonade. I got to try that at least once. Strawberry shortcake lemonade sounds delicious. That's probably the shortcake on the top there. The topping looks great. Lemonade iced tea. And then you can get a novelty mason jar. The Hungry Bear mason jar served with a choice of beverage at the time of purchase. I love having drinks out of mason jars. That's something else that they do at Lucille's. So there you go. They basically turned Hungry Bear into Lucille's, and I'm here for it. All right, interesting. Guys, I want to hear your thoughts on these conversations. I want to hear your thoughts about what potentially Lightning Lane Premier Pass could be, or if it even ever happened. Maybe we can stop it before it becomes a thing. I want to hear your thoughts on AECOM data and what you think. Does it change your opinion on how Disneyland is performing first against, by itself in 2023 versus what you thought it would, or how it's performing compared to Hollywood or Universal Studios? People have been, Universal Studios is still the king, or it's becoming the king. I don't know yet. Down 10%. Down 10% in 2023. And then let us know your thoughts on that Hungry Bear BBQ Jamboree menu, which for me looks super great. I hope you guys enjoyed. Follow us here. And then also on Instagram at _freshbaked, on Twitter at freshbakedisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at freshbakedisney. And if you like our show and want to show you support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Baked.